Hello, everyone. My name is Alice Weichel. I'm a middle school Spanish teacher in Centerville, Ohio, currently teaching 6th through 8th grade Spanish learners. Thank you so much for having me as a part of your AFLA conference today. I'm going to be speaking about the use of zero dialogue videos in our world language classrooms in order to promote student communication. Today's plan, I'm going to be covering 9 different activities that we can use with silent videos. 9 samples are also included, 9 videos that you could possibly use. I'm going to put the links for the videos in the description here on YouTube. Simply have screenshots within the presentation to help us keep moving time-wise today. I've also included some student work samples so you can get a feel for what some final products may be. So the concept of using silent videos ties to using a visual media to drive communication. So rather than having just a still image, having an actual perhaps 2-3 minute clip longer possibly with a plot and lots of visual input and stimulus. There's a great deal of research on this. For instance, findings of Kim, which was with English language learners in South Korea, they found that students were more engaged with classwork and actually made greater grammatical gains with the zero dialogue videos as they were producing themselves instead of trying to negotiate the target language and produce for themselves at the same time. What I love about using these zero dialogue videos is that they're great for all levels. You could use the same video for multiple different proficiency levels, different class levels. It's also great to use for departmental ideas. You can work across languages. So you can develop an activity in your target language and then share the video and the concept with other teachers, and they simply have to switch the target language. It's also great for vertical alignment. You could use the same video over the course of several years. So a student perhaps sees a video in an introductory course and does one task with it, then sees it later on and completes a different. So as far as how to find videos, of course, your typical places you're going to find on YouTube, some Facebook videos, Instagram, Twitter, even GIFs work for this. Very short little silent videos are what GIFs are, of course. You can also have student created items, or you could go ahead and create your own. I've had students create kind of silent videos, goofy little things that gives them something fun to do. And they're also in their mind thinking of what can I show that my fellow students are able to describe in our language. This kind of took me a while to come to the conclusion that you can technically make any video silent, which I know seems very obvious, but you can use any video, even if it's in a different language perhaps, and just turn the sound off and make it a silent video and make it just a visual stimulus for your students. Again, I'm also going to include a list of the videos. I'm calling it my online handout. It's just going to be the information underneath this video here on YouTube. All right, so we're going to be talking about activities today. Of course, everything can be mixed and matched. I've paired a video with an activity just for the purpose of this presentation and as an experience that I have had in the classroom with students, but you can, of course, mix and match them. You can do written and spoken output. You can mix whether students are doing this independently or with partners or groups. You could use the same video and just add a couple activities together, just start differentiating, adding more options for students. And again, you minimize the new stimulus so that students are really focusing on those certain target items. And my advice is to minimize instructions so that students feel a little more free to just use the language they want. I found that if I used a silent video and was very constraining with my instructions, I expect you to give me 3 sentences. Each one must have an adjective. Students got very hung up on that versus just feeling free to express themselves proficiently in the language. So my advice is to just try to keep things as minimal as possible. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Again, I have 9 activities for you. The first one today is basically your old clip chat, movie talk, whatever you want to call it, teacher narrate in question. So you show the video, and as you are showing the video, you can either stop it or just speak over the video to ask questions, either to the class or a specific student. This is great for circling and repetition of certain things like specific vocabulary, a specific grammatical structure. I'm also including today some ideas of how this could work virtually because I know some of us are still dealing with hybrid situations, virtual instruction, whatever it may be. So the same thing could work virtually where you're sharing the video and audio through your Google Classroom, through your Google Meet, through Zoom, whatever it may be. And then students could respond with written responses through the chat or the polls. You could do a separate assignment. You could have them turn their microphones on and speak back to you, that sort of thing. So an example for this video is, or sorry, for this activity where I would narrate and ask questions is a video called Alma. It is a short video about a doll that honestly does turn a little creepy, but it gets students talking. This is great for some weather expressions. As you can see here in the screenshot, you can see that it's cold. if there's snow. You can do a lot of in your target language. Class, is it warm? Is it cold? Is it sunny? Is it snowy? It's snowy, etc. And just keep recycling and circling those vocabulary items. The second activity I've nicknamed Quick ID. This is especially great to start a class, to perhaps check in on background knowledge or review previously covered concepts, even just as a quick formative check-in on a topic that you've been working with. Students can identify things like items, characters, they could do descriptions of people. Again, in this, you're not really looking for full sentences, you're looking for some words, some phrases. And again, virtually, this could work pretty well with using your chat or Jamboard options. Students could type a list in a Google form. You could use a Go formative assignment with the video embedded right in there, and you could simply ask students questions to quick ID something. For this example, I just used this actually a few weeks ago with my 7th grade students who were relearning weather expressions. This is actually an advertisement for Morton salt for pet safe salt that you can use outside during the winter. 2 dogs, it goes through all of the seasons. You see lots of different weather expressions. So this is great for just let it play for a little bit, stop it, and ask who can identify the season, who can give me the weather, and just get very quick responses back from students. And if you notice that, for instance, if you pause it on a fall scene and no one is able to give you fall, it gives you just some quick data real quick from this quick ID. Third activity with silent videos is another thing that many of us have become super familiar with over the last 18 months, and that is either Edpuzzle or Play Pause It. Both of them offer the ability to embed questions into videos. I think of this as a high-tech version of the teacher narrate in question. It works great both face-to-face and virtually. As I said, many of us have used this over the last several years, and especially the last 18 months. With the silent videos, again, because students are not trying to focus so much on hearing the target language, they can instead provide their proficiency in the language via written responses. So you could do check for comprehension, you can ask predictions, you could do vocabulary utilization, maybe you embed a question right as the video freezes on a woman with brown hair, and you say, is she blonde or brunette, using that vocabulary. Typically, when I use a video like this using Edpuzzle or Play Pause It, I like to have students watch the video once without the question so that they're just kind of getting some broad strokes, maybe thinking about like, okay, what sort of vocabulary are we working with? What vocabulary can I apply to this image, these visuals? And then the second time through, they can do the activity. A great one for this is one of my favorite silent videos. I would use it all the time if students wouldn't get bored of it. It's called The Note. It's available on YouTube. It is a Czech silent film. So there's a few signs in Czech, like you can see here very smallly, that it says Prague in Czech. It's on a train station and then on a train and then back on another train station, a couple platforms. Here, these are just some screenshots from Play Pause It, where I'm having students describe what happened, describe what they think is going to happen, and then also just a little bit of verb conjugation thrown in there. I'm a grammarian at heart, so occasionally, especially if that's something that students have been struggling with, that's a great thing to throw in here. And again, if you'll notice, like describe what happened over here, and again, what happened and in your opinion, what's going to happen. Students can then play to their strength and try to express themselves in the target language. The next activity I've called Next Scene. Students will view a video clip and then they'll write the predictions for the next scene. And again, this works great in person and virtually as well. They can share their ideas in chat. They can write in the Google form or doc. You could do it in a Go formative where you have just part of the video as the video clip. Again, lots of options there. This also lends itself well to some extensions. So you could have students watch, let's say, the first 30 seconds of a video. They all come up with their idea for what they think is going to happen, and then you could display them all. You could have students read them out, they could vote, and then you could see the final ending and see who was closest or correct. Another fun thing to do is to shuffle all those endings and then have students act them out. So have a couple groups act out the different parts. Again, lots of fun ways that you can use this to just kind of extend the student communication. Sometimes you get into debates like there's no way that's what's going to happen next, those sorts of things. A great example here is this little video. This is just a short little GIF. It's called Mother Cat Opens Door into Kitten's Face, and it's literally what happens. So oftentimes I will just show this freeze frame to students, not tell them the title, of course, and just ask them what they think is going to happen. So you get all kinds of different creativity things. Some students think that like the little cat's going to go, the kitten's going to go in, but leave mom outside. Some think mom's going to leave the kitten outside, right? They come up with all these different ideas. and then I will actually play the GIF for them, and they'll see that, in fact, exactly what happens in the title here. And so again, it gets students talking, gets them thinking, and then you get a lot of repetitions on some vocabulary like to open, door, cat, that sort of thing. And then students are free to bring in their own ideas as well, so they can bring in their own vocabulary. I always had a student a few years ago that loved to say everything was about food or hunger. So when I did this activity with that class, he said that mom is really hungry, and so she's going to open the door and go on inside and eat, and the baby's going to stay outside. And so he was able to give me most of that in Spanish that was proficient enough to understand where he was going with. Some examples here of that next scene. These were done in groups that year. So we have the first one, for those of you that are not Spanish speakers. The little cat cries a lot because of the door to the face, never enters the house. So in this case, I had shown them where the mom hit the baby, poor cat, with the door, and then asked them what was going to happen next. And the video actually didn't have the next part. So there was no right or wrong answer. It was just students being creative. Group B, the mom cat eats all the food, and the little cat, the baby cat, is hungry forever. And then the last one, they brought in another video that we had used, which was a little boy named Nico doing all kinds of chores, and they really latched on to that. And so they gave me that Nico comes to the house, he does the chores, he opens the door, he eats chicken with the kitten, the end. So again, these are not 100% correct, they're proficient, they're not perfect, but they get the idea across, and students are able to express themselves, they can use vocabulary they're comfortable with. For instance, group B, comer, to eat, is always a popular verb. So students were able to rely on that, even though the video doesn't necessarily lead you down that path. So again, it comes back to, as I talked earlier, this allows students to play to their strength. You have a silent video, and then you have some kind of options for where they can go with that information. And they can use the target language the way they feel comfortable doing so. Our fifth activity I call Spin and Speak. This is a partner activity. It also works well in small groups, just depending upon what sort of classroom setup you may have. One student will watch part of the clip, and then they will describe what happened to their partner and the target language to the best of their ability. So this is where it's important as the teacher to choose a video that is either perhaps quite simple if you're working with lower level students that really plays into their strengths, or that was very much on target with whatever theme you were currently covering. So then the viewer and the non-viewer would switch roles for the next part of the clip. So then do the same thing again. The person who didn't see the first part would see the second part, describe it to their partner, etc. And you can do these as many times as you want if you want to keep switching back and forth. And then ultimately at the end, I typically play the video in its entirety for everyone again. And this is a nice place to then layer on another activity. We could layer back in the teacher narrating question. Now that everyone has seen part of the video, when I play it a second time, I can ask questions, reiterate some vocabulary, some important structures, do that circling so that students are using the same stimulus, but in a couple different ways. Again, this works virtually if you use some breakout rooms. It can be a little clunky because sometimes students are going to go ahead and watch the entire video, whatever it may be. Sometimes this also works really well if you just simply do it within the class and you separate out that you have one group that are viewers, one group that are going to be described to, do a quick breakout room, show the video to just the viewers, bring everybody back together. Again, a little clunky virtually, but there are ways to make that work. An example that's great for this is Mr. Bean is late for the dentist. There's a lot of great Mr. Bean videos, of course, known for being non-verbal. This one, he's waking up late, so he goes through all these different things. He brushes his teeth in the car. He's trying to get dressed while he's driving. So this is great for those daily routine sorts of vocabulary words. Great for reflexive verbs. And again, this one's quite long. I believe this is like a 6 or 7 minute clip. You don't have to use the entire clip, of course. You could do maybe the first 30 seconds. Then the people describe to their partners, switch, do the next 30 seconds, and then as a class, you could perhaps watch the rest of the clip, and the teacher could then pop in with another activity like the narrating question, something else, whatever it may be. This would be a great place also after you do the spin and speak for part of it to have students predict what happens next. Like, is he going to be on time to the dentist? Is he going to have all his clothes on when he arrives at the dentist? All of those sorts of things. All right, rolling right through to activity 6. This one utilizes screenshots, so taking advantage of technology. I like to create screenshots of key points in the video, so things that if you lay out the screenshots kind of give you the main plot points. It's great before you watch the video as an anticipatory set so that you can have students maybe create what they think the video is going to be about before they view it. It's also great on the other end after viewing as a review of events or reinforcement. This was great when we were virtual for a good chunk of last year. I could put screenshots right into slides or go formative, and students could put them in order, move them around, and then write descriptions as to what happened in those different parts and basically create a summary or a review of what happened in the silent video by using those screenshots again as extra stimulus to kind of jog their memory. Again, it's also a nice kind of hands-on thing you can do in class if you print them out or just have students have them on their computer perhaps, if you could describe verbally what happens in that scene and have students indicate which one it is. You could always just print them out on the board and number them and have students hold up fingers 1 through 5, whatever it may be. Also works great for your classic fly swatter game as the teacher describes the scene, all kinds of different things you can do with those screenshots, definitely. An example with this is one of the Spanish Christmas lottery advertisements called Justino. Again, because it's a silent video, it can be used across languages. There are a few things written on the screen in Spanish, but otherwise it's pretty self-explanatory. It's a claymation video, as you can see here, always really popular. And for this activity or for this video, I've done lots of different sorts of activities, but the screenshots always seem to be pretty popular because students tend to like this video, so they like dealing with the screenshots again on the other end. It reminds them of the video, helps them piece it back together, and so they can take a 3-minute long video using key screenshots and basically, given the right input with vocabulary, re-explain the whole video. Here's an example of that. This is from last December when my district was virtual. Students received this as part of their slide deck that they were working through with their activities. They had the screenshots out of order, and as the directions say here, they were to rearrange them and then put them into whatever order they believe was correct within the story. And then at the bottom, I had them give just an example of their opinion, how they felt about the advertisement. So this was really just, do we remember the order? And then what did you feel about the advertisement? And then we could build upon it. Once we got our screenshots in the right order, we could go back and then go through and put our descriptions and get our flow, create like a paragraph that basically rehashes the advertisement. And this was a different year with the same video. I printed out some screenshots and students worked in groups. They received a couple screenshots and they were to write a description, either describing what happens in that screenshot or describing why it was important within the flow of that advertisement. So we have just 3 samples here on whiteboards. Again, not 100% perfect, but they're proficient expressing themselves in the target language. And again, they kind of let them share the information they're comfortable sharing and perhaps ignore some of the words they're not super comfortable with. For instance, this student here had learned the word mannequin from the video. It does show it like visually, but it's not a word that we necessarily would have practiced or used a lot, but they were able to pick that up from the video. All right, another sample using screenshots. This is that same video, the note from earlier that takes place on a train and in 2 train stations. This also was from when we were virtual this past year. Students listened to me speaking, describing a part of the film, and then they were to give me the letter of the correct answer. So this was actually embedded in Go Formative. And so before we watched the video, I read just a quick description in the target language of one of the images, and students put them in order. So they kind of had a nice anticipatory set of what was coming up for them in the video. And they knew going into the 3-minute long video some broad strokes from the video. So as you can see here in the directions, if you're a Spanish speaker, this was our actividad de anticipar, so our anticipatory activity. We watched the video straight through together, and then they had a puzzle to complete with questions, vocabulary based, describe what happened, those sorts of things, so they could share what they knew. So screenshots are very versatile, and again, I think over the last 18 months, we've all been finding new ways to work in these technology bits. So screenshots definitely help us with these silent videos. All right, just a few more activities for you. I know I'm a fast talker. I'm just trying to get through as much as I can for you guys. Activity 7 is CAP activities. So CAP activities are creative, analytical, and practical activities. They appeal to 3 general learning and output modes, and so it's a student choice. They would choose between 3 options with an activity. You don't typically tell students this is a creative option, this is the analytical one, this is a practical one. You just simply set out the 3 different options. So as it says here on the screen, the creative, again, is going to be a little more divergent thinking. So great for like what happens next, or maybe what happened before to set up this video that you've just seen. Analytical is more about breaking things into parts, into chunks, and why those parts are what they are. And the practical is taking what they've seen and repurposing it. And this comes from the work of Sternberg, and it's a student-selected way to process information. And it's often not really an accuracy sort of thing because it's more about how students are taking the input that you've given them and applying it in a manner that they're comfortable doing. So from some examples, this would be tied to a Pixar short called Kit Bull. And so for the creative option, students could create a storyboard or a cartoon of key events. For the next option, students could create a timeline or a concept map of key events. And then for the practical application, students could write a summary from another perspective. So all three of these, students were expressing themselves in the target language to some degree or another, based upon the video that we viewed, in this case, Kit Bull, and then maybe playing to their more personal strengths or what they prefer to do. For myself, if I had these options, I'm very much non-artistic, so I would not lean towards a storyboard or cartoon event for the key events. So students can kind of go through these and be like, you know what, I'm not a great drawer, but I could do a timeline, no problem. Or I think thinking a summary from a different perspective would be interesting. So instead of from this person's perspective, I can do it from this other one. So they're just kind of recreating the information in their own way. And again, that is from Pixar's Kit Bull, which is available on YouTube. And again, links for all of these will be included in the description. Our second to last activity is student narrate. So it's similar to teacher narrate, but this time the onus is on the student. So there are high-tech ways to do this, of course, using Screencastify, Flipgrid, Loom, etc., where students would add their voice narration to a video. Low-tech ways, they can narrate to a classmate, to a group, to the entire class, depending upon how you want to set it up. This works great with pictures and videos. It's especially fun with like goofy, old, kind of weird videos. It works great with GIFs, right? They're short and sweet. They're usually something funny or weird about them. And then students can either narrate the video or they can act as the characters and do the dialogue, similar to an old game on Whose Line Is It Anyway? And like I said, especially great with like goofy, weird videos. The example I have for you on this one is from 1907 and it's called The Dancing Pig. And it literally is a person in a pig costume dancing and then a woman in a very frilly 1907 dress dancing with him. Very odd, very funny, and great for students to review some of those action verbs. And even if you're doing animal vocabulary at the time, even if you just want something totally random and to see what students can give you, this is a great go-to. And again, in this case, I would probably either put students in maybe partnerships. So one of them could be the pig, and one of them could be the lady and do their dialogue, or just have them narrate what's happening. There's a pig dancing, there's a woman who's dancing with him. Maybe ask questions. Why is there a pig dancing? Why is the woman there with him? Those sorts of things. And then the final activity I'm going to chat with you today about with our zero dialogue videos, I've called sentence match. Students will choose a sentence that matches with the video clip. This is great for vocabulary reinforcement, for introducing scaffolded grammar. So perhaps students aren't super comfortable with certain forms of verbs, but they can pick up the vocabulary within the sentence. Also, this works great with GIFs, just short little things. Pick a sentence to match each GIF. So you can do like 4 or 5 quick little GIFs, so very short little videos. And they choose sentences that make sense with each of them. And then you can build on it from there. So this is another great one as like perhaps a warm up, just a quick formative check-in. Virtually, this works pretty well with Go Formative or Google Form. You have your multiple selections. So perhaps, you show a short little video and there are 5 sentences and 3 of them are appropriate for the video. So you have them choose them. You could also do it on a Google Doc, have students highlight it. Of course, you can just do it in the classroom if you are not virtual. Have students maybe choose the sentences on a piece of paper, still use the Google Docs, the Go Formative, whatever it may be. So here's an example of the video called Knock Knock, another sort of creepy one. Great for vocabulary as far as like open, close. Also great for house vocabulary. Man's in an apartment, so you can talk about door, you can talk about the pieces of his kitchen, couch, that sort of thing. I will warn you, there are some empty beer bottles on the table, so depending upon your situation, may not be the best. This one was embedded in Go Formative. I used it last year. As you can see here, this was a multiple selection. So there were all these sentences all available for the students. They were reading 6 different sentences and then choosing the sentences that were appropriate for that video clip. And really even from just a small part of this video, without possibly showing the beer bottles, students could get this activity completed. So this helps you not only have students get a little bit of reading comprehension in, but also have them zero in on what's actually visually represented in that short video. So again, it's a nice way to maybe mix and match your skills, and also a nice thing to just sort of check in, especially if there's targeted vocabulary you're using. In this case, you can see it's kind of a mixture of different grammars and things for those of you that are Spanish speakers. And it also includes some of the different items you might find in a house. So we've got things like sofa, easy chair. There's also some conditions like having energy, being tired, those sorts of things. So just a nice mixture of things. And again, you have the choice. You could tell them, for instance, there are 6 sentences here and 3 of them are correct to go with this video. You can maybe not give them that information and see what sort of results you get. And then as a scaffolded step after they've tried it, say, okay, I'm looking at our answers here and I see most of us are on the right track. Additional hint, 3 of these are correct, 3 of them are not, whatever it may be. So that's what I have for you. That email address is not correct. I have changed districts, so I will place the correct email address in the description of this YouTube video. I apologize for not having the correct information up there. My Twitter is correct. It is currently locked down, but you can still, of course, add me and happily share a bunch of ideas. As I come across new videos, I like to share them on my Twitter, that sort of thing. Thank you so much for your attention today. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Again, this email address no longer functions, but I will put the proper one in the description on YouTube. Thanks so much. Enjoy the rest of your conference.